What is up, ladies and gentlemen, boys and girls, loan officers, and real estate agents, and clients, and my mom, and Matt's mom? Welcome to our weekly Monday market update. Hope everybody's having a fantastic day. Hope you had a great weekend. Hope you were safe if you were in the Southeast, and hope you got up to no good if you were elsewhere. So, Matt, I'm Sean, by the way. Vice President of Product Strategy here at U Mortgage. Someday I'll tell you guys what that actually means that I do all day, but for now we'll keep it a mystery.
Right.
Matt,
yeah.
Don't leave us wondering about the mystery of your weekend. What did you do? My co-host, Matt, the mortgage guy, Gujay. I keep on forgetting about the intro.
It's all right, dude. Yeah,
people just know us so well by now.
They're like, mortgage guy, I want to hear some stuff about real estate and mortgage. Maybe I'll tune in.
No, they're like, God, they take so much time to talk about mortgage stuff and real estate. I want to hear about Matt's weekend.
Yeah, they really want to hear about the weekend. A little bit of poker. Played some poker on Saturday, which was fun.
Good for you.
And then yesterday, me and my wife, in your mid 40s, a date looks like meeting at Nordstrom Rack, finding a new outfit for a wedding we'll be attending in a couple weeks. So little date with the wife, watch some football. Had my pops over last night for some of my wife's delicious tacos and football. And so, was fairly relaxing for the most part. Honestly, wasn't as action packed as some weekends can be with kiddos and sports and all that stuff. I'll tell you what, because I know that you and your family love music, and your wife's got many talents when it comes to music. If you heard my son and his piano teacher playing Piano Man, my son's doing piano. He's also doing harmonica. His teacher singing some parts of it. That was like the highlight of the weekend for sure, dude. Last night, his piano teacher comes over to the house and does lessons. And like, there's something about the harmonica. There's something about music in general. I don't have to tell you, right? Like hearing your wife sing, I'm sure like there's something really special about that. And so hearing my son rock Piano Man, it was cool. I'll send you a video for sure, man.
Yeah, please do. One of my favorite songs. My wife has the great pleasure and luck to have me yell it at her at the top of my lungs a cappella about 3 times a week. So she's very familiar with it. I'm very familiar with it. Great song. Someday we'll come to find out what Billy Joel meant by a real estate novelist.
Yeah, we'll have to dig into that, because I was watching some like Elton John, Billy Joel videos last night just because that song is so cool. And he was laughing like that song, like he didn't expect it to be a hit. I guess it was like a limerick that he kind of just turned into a song.
It's such a good song. Great storytelling.
Such a good song. Such a good song.
Anyway, speaking of song and dance, it's time that you and I enter into ours while we review the numbers.
Let's do it.
Here, my friends, is a chart, a slowly declining, maybe plateauing chart of rates over the last 3 months, 4 months. And as you have kept up with over the last few weeks, rates declined. But then what happened? They stopped declining. If you have any questions about rates, the markets, how bonds work, how rates work, anything like that, feel free to drop them in the chat. or if you have any questions about the real estate market in general, we would love to have those answered. But you'll see here, Matt, that that the Fed, there was an expectation that the Fed would lower rates, and rates dropped, and then the Fed actually lowered rates, and rates went up. Have you experienced that in your day-to-day?
Yeah, and so I think there's a couple myths I want to unpack. One, I think people saw the proof that September 18th wasn't the magic day that rates go down. Rates have gone down for 3 months in anticipation of this magic day, where we're going to start this cutting cycle. But that's not the day that affects mortgage rates. It's the lead up to it, it's the talk about it, it's the future planning from the Fed. And so I think most people got a grip on that. What I want to remind people while we're looking at this chart, 6.059, 30-year conforming. Is this a nationwide average? Is this people probably paying some points? Is it 30% down on an owner-occupied house? Yes, 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 and yes. So where people get confused, Sean, and this is where I love having conversations out loud for people to hear, because on the phone with just me and a consumer, or me and a real estate agent, I'm talking every single day. And there's just things that people don't know that they don't know. One of those things is this 30-year average isn't the average if your credit score might be a little bit lower, if you're buying an investment property, if you're doing a cash out refinance, if you don't want to pay any points or any cost at all. And so people have to remember that. And I'll tell you what sparked this kind of, let me get this message out to the people. I was talking to somebody, and, as brokers, we've got a bunch of different investors. We got investors that for one reason or another are going to be super aggressive with different products. They want non-owner occupied. They're going to be really aggressive on investment properties. So I quote this guy, a cash out refinance. Granted, it's a small loan amount. So it's actually hurt him that it's a small loan amount, like 100 grand in Florida, because lenders don't price as well on the lower loan amounts. But it's not perfect credit. It's cash out refinance. It's non-owner occupied. It's an investment property.
Oh yeah. I'm surprised you could even get a rate.
Sean, you'd be surprised, dude. Like Kind, who's sharp on price right now. I could get this guy like mid sixes.
No way.
For less than 2 points. I mean, it was like 1.5 points or something, which is $1,500 in that size loan amount. I thought when I didn't hear from this guy that he was out carving a statue of me, in honor of like this great rate I was getting him. But he wasn't carving a statue of me. He was like, hey, they say on Mortgage News Daily or on this other thing that the 30-year average is 6%. I'm like, bro, that's not how it works. So this is my message to everybody. This is good.
This is a good PSA.
Everybody's rates are different, and it depends on loan to value, credit score, property type, loan type, all of these things. And so this is not like the 30-year fixed rate where everyone who gets 30-year fixed money is getting the same rate. Credit score, type of property, all that stuff.
Like this is like the rate that like I would qualify for, not necessarily somebody like you.
Well, because I'm buying a investment property that's a duplex. I know that's what you meant by that, Sean. I know you wouldn't mean anything mean. You're like, because you're buying a primary. I'm a bigger thinker, an investor. I'm probably buying an investment duplex, right. And so that pricing is different. Yeah, I think you're right in that way. It's good point there, bud.
Thanks. Oh, relentlessly positive is what
right. Yeah, you can't
I try and talk crap, and you just turn it into gold. It's amazing. Let's take a look at what this means for where we think rates are going to go, or where traders think Fed fund rates are going to go. So you'll see rates have gone up because the expectation of where rates will settle has gone up a little bit. Last week, if you look at this, so by the way, this is the sort of step. This is one step down on the rate table, and this is 2 step downs on the rate table for the 7th of November meeting of the Fed. And this shows the implied odds that this will happen based on trader activity. All right, that's about as succinct as I've ever been trying to explain that. If you look at just, and then what's interesting is it shows the chances of this happening a week ago, a month ago, a day ago. But if you look at this one step down option, 63%, it was a much lower percentage chance last week. It was 47% split pretty much evenly, 53% with this one. Now we see traders are starting to think, okay, we're going for a single drop in November, which is 2 months from now for all my math nerds out there, and or 2 calendar months anyway, and would be a pretty small drop down, especially when paired with the double dip we had last time. If you go into December, you'll see a 30% chance of that second drop. And then, is that right? Yes. And then a 50% chance of a double drop. I think what we begin to see is these traders, they always kind of like, put it in the trees. The further out they are, the more they're like, yeah, it'll probably be 3 total drops between now and December. But then once it comes time for November is done, and they're like, oh, well, the numbers haven't actually been that crazy, there's probably going to start reverting to that single drop. And so as that happens, as these expectations start to contract into something a little bit more realistic and a little less, hedge your bets, I think you'll see rates may go up or just stay stagnant throughout the rest of the year.
Yeah. And that's something like that is, I want to hammer that home for people. Just because rates are trending down and we expect rates to trend down in the future doesn't mean we can't sit still and be flat for 3 or 4 months. And this is like the big point that I've made with people who are in the money on refinance. They're thinking about it. And I'm like, if you don't do it now, you might sit in your current loan for another 4 months, 5 months. It's not guaranteed. Nobody knows. But getting better eventually, I think is a solid bet for people. But if it takes 5 months, and in those 5 months you pay an extra $400 per month because you want it to go down another eighth or a quarter to save you $38, well, you're going to spend an extra $2,000 because you're paying $400 extra per month on this loan that should be refinanced. And then after 5 months, when you refinance and you're saving 38 more, yippee, you've got to save 50 times 38 more to get the 2,000 back that you spent over the next 5 months. So another reminder for people that the term used to be, if you like it, lock it, in terms of, what to do with interest rate. And it applies for refinance. Once the target appears, you should shoot.
Yeah. It's more like if it fits, wear it. You don't have to like it, but if it makes sense now, it may make less and less sense as time goes on. We do have some pretty big weeks ahead of us. We've got job numbers this week, which is always a fun week. I mean, I don't know. That sounds kind of crass now that the jobs numbers are going down. So like the bad numbers are not as fun, but it's always an interesting week in that this moves Fed policy on a very large scale. So you'll see that Jerome Powell, in his notes last week, 2 weeks ago, whenever it was, he spoke mainly about the effect that he didn't want rate increases or rate neutral moves or not big enough rate cuts. He didn't want those to have negative impacts on the job market. So inflation is a big issue for them. I think that what we've really learned is that the biggest effect on inflation is the job market, and the biggest effect on the job market is the cost to borrow money. And so we used to think cost to borrow money affected inflation, but really the biggest cost in the economy is the jobs it takes to accomplish something. And so when those are higher, then the cost of goods go up, even if the cost of the raw material hasn't gone up. So anyway, all to say, jobs numbers are big. And then next week we've got CPI, the core the headline inflation metric that everybody kind of pays attention to. The first one that comes out for September, and should be interesting. I'll have you remember that last month, CPI was down to 2.5%, and core CPI, which backs out, what does it back out? Backs out energy and transportation, was down to 3.2%. So still higher than desired, but getting towards where the Fed is now concerned about overshooting their mark. So that's the numbers. That's what we're looking at, and that's why you might not see rates move for 3 months.
And I think it's always been the case, but it's worth reminding people and mentioning this. Cutting is happening. We know that for certain. The thing we don't know is how they're going to cut, how much, and how fast. And as important, like, listen to what they say. What Jerome Powell says, future meetings, and even in between meetings, you'll hear Fed speakers speak. I think Jerome Powell might be speaking today. I thought I heard something about him doing something today.
You're right. 1:55 p.m.
That is going to be what affects markets, right? Like, if they do 25 or 50 on November 7th, not really a market mover. We expected one of those two, and I don't think either one of them really affects the market that much. But there's plenty of opportunity for numbers to come out, CPI numbers, and Jerome Powell or anybody else on the Fed to make a statement. And those statements, affect markets because what they say is little hints on what they might do in the future with the Fed funds rate and policy. So stay tuned for that stuff. If you're somebody who's betting on rates going down a ton before the end of the year, I'm with you, Sean. Like, I think they stay pretty flat. I'd be interested for your take on this. I'm gonna put you on the spot. So you got to make a prediction. End of summer, let's call it like July of 25. Where do you see 30-year fixed rate mortgages? Because somebody pinned that to me, and where I was at was pretty close to where they were at on the 30-year fixed rate mortgage.
I'm going to say, like, on this chart. So
yeah, so this chart is the best of the best for the
A plus. Using that one, I mean, honestly, like 5.5. I don't think it's like this like magical low number. I don't think it's where people hope it's going to be.
Yeah, see, I'm with you there. My buddy Mike Zuber was like, I don't see it below. Like, that was the line, 5.5, and he's like, I think it's higher than 5.5. And I said 5.5 to 5.75 is probably a good range, and that's great. That's a half a point or more lower than where we're at today. But people, for whatever reason, are like thinking that it's going to be some drastic.
I saw a Facebook post. I saw a Facebook post right before I got on that was like, "Who's offering 3.99% mortgages?" And I was like, I mean, I guess anybody, if you don't mind, living in your car that you got a promotional rate on at 3.99%. Like, yeah, it's crazy. The expectations out there are pretty wild. So there's going to be this other like resetting of expectations sort of thing. But like, nobody remembers the 5.5%. Like, I was writing 5.5% loans in 2019. That was just normal. Maybe it was a little closer, like the high fours. But like,
yeah,
5.5 is a great deal.
Yeah, and that's the thing too is if you talk to somebody who has a 2.5, or their expectation is there, rates are crazy. If you talk to somebody who bought in the Q4 of 22 and they've got a 7.625, 5.5 is phenomenal. They are so stoked about it, and so really it's just a perspective thing. But rates will settle, and I wouldn't be surprised if we went like 2025, 26, 27. All somewhere in that 5 to 6 range, right? Like, we're going to start 25, probably in the high 5s, or it might even still be a click above 6. But if we get down to 5.5 by the summer, there's no expectation that we go a ton lower. Maybe we get near that 5% mark, but this is kind of the normal that people should expect going forward. Anybody who's got these crazy dreams that 3.9 is real, right? If somebody's offering that and you're seeing advertisements for it, you're paying $1 million. You're only getting it for a limited time. There's something.
Yeah, I saw him mentioned along with like DR Horton, who's a builder, and they're like, how are they offering this? And it's like, well, they're probably overcharging the amount they're overcharging you for the house, not overcharging, that they're adding to the margin of the house you're buying because they're partnered with, they are the builder. That $20,000 is actually just standing in for you buying points. So we could do that too, but like, you're essentially subsidizing it into the purchase price of your house.
Right. Yeah. And that's the thing. If they get an extra 40,000 for you, they can afford to.
Sure. Yeah. I could do it too. If anybody wires me $40,000 right now, I'll get them 3.99%. No big deal. Don't do that. That would break federal laws. Question for you, Matt. In this, I saw an article on Housing Wire today that mortgage demand is firming up, which just means it's not declining anymore, which is great news. But mortgage demand means house demand and we're not seeing a great increase in inventory. This is a great question for all the loan officers, agents, and clients that watch this Monday market update. What are you doing specifically to make your offer stand out to prospective?
You talking about if I'm a buyer and I want to stand out to?
If you're a buyer, if you're a triune buyer, buyer's agent, loan officer team, what are you doing as that team to make your offer stand out?
I think the old tried and true methods still really work. And in a market that to me feels a little bit, the market's kind of strange in some ways. There's limited inventory. So you might get a house that's on the market for 4 days and has 6 offers. You might get a house 2 blocks over that's been on the market for 55 days and has 0 offers. But in those cases, like you said, like, how do I stand out on that really attractive house that's priced really well? The things that we've done forever, I feel like, still work, which is agent communicates a lot. They call the list side, they have a conversation, they dig out as much information as possible. Does this seller of yours looking to sell really quick? Do they need their money fast? Is a 19 or 21 day close something that is going to be attractive to them? Do they need rent back? Are they, whatever the different things are that matter to the seller? It blows my mind, Sean, because I'm active duty out here. I'm in here in the trenches every day. And I was sitting with a buddy of mine playing poker, and he's like reading me this offer that came through. No phone call, no communication. They were listed at 760 and someone just offered 700. And I said, well, is your seller going to entertain it? And he goes, well, I don't know, but if this person called me, we could talk about that. We'll talk about like the fact that we just lowered to 760. Sellers liable to just keep the house if they can't get at least 730 or whatever the information is. If you don't have the conversation, you don't know that. And so dig out the information, write an offer that matches what the seller's looking for, and then certainty always sells. And if you think about it as a seller, what you want to know is, if I accept this offer from this buyer, what's the likelihood it closes? It's more likely if you've had 6 conversations with the buy side, if they told you this person's really motivated, they want to get in here because they're going to send their kid to this school and that school starts in 8 weeks. So they want to get in and get settled. I talked to the lender. Matt picked up the phone and said, I've got a full file, well-qualified clients. We've verified income, assets. And so, the agent wrote the 17-day close. I'm fully confident we're probably going to be able to close it quicker than that, right? Seems simple. And to a lot of people that do it right, I think it's kind of the basics for us. But that works because, unfortunately, for some buyers, they've got an agent and a lender and a team that's just not doing that stuff. Yep, you're pre-approved. Throw the offer out there. Hope it lands.
Yeah, I agree. Yeah, from what a buyer can do, the buyer can't really do much. They're not interacting with the listing agent. They're not preparing the offer, any of that stuff. What the buyer can do is advocate for themselves with their lender, with their buyer's agent, to make sure that those 2 small things, agent outreach, essentially, the listing agent outreach, are being done to advocate for them. Like, you can ask leading questions. Like, did you talk to, what did the listing agent say that was the seller's highest priority? If you get blank stare, then it means your buyer's agent probably didn't do that. Or like, what did the listing agent say, dear loan officer, when you called them and told them about my file? Like, you need to be advocating for your team to be doing that for you, because it's abysmal. I mean, the reason good loan officers are considered excellent loan officers is typically because they do what good loan officers should do, but don't, right? It's just like, oh, hey, you're putting in a $500,000 offer, a transaction that your company is underwriting the financing for. And like, I tried to sell a small business one time for $500,000. It took like 13 months and didn't work. It was insane. The amount of documentation, phone calls, like walkthroughs, meetups, I mean, like travel to get this deal that never ended up happening done was like, it was mind-boggling compared to what we do with a minimum that can be done to buy a house, which is put in an offer, don't ever call anybody or talk to anybody, meet at the closing table, be done. I'm like, guys, this is a big deal. Like, the commissions they're coming off this thing for agents and for loan officers are huge. Like the least you could do is like donate an extra 17 minutes of your time to have a conversation with the other side of the transaction about what the expectations are. I'm with you. It's crazy. It boggles my mind. When I went through that one transaction versus like buying a house, I was like, why are we making this so easy on everybody? Like, let's have a conversation. Are we all sure this is a good idea? It seems to be going so weirdly smooth.
Right. And I think, like, to your point, as a buyer, you advocate on your own behalf and just make sure that you've got great partners that are doing those things, because you've got the right to ask, hey, what do they say? How many other offers are there? And then as a buyer, if it's a house that you love and it, have that conversation with your agent. We were going to write it at 500,000. Do you think like we should go to 505 or 510? Is that going to get it done? Then you have the conversation with the loan officer. If I wrote an offer at 510, what does that look like versus what you showed me at 500? Oh, it's only $44 a month. This is the perfect house in the perfect like neighborhood with this. Like, I want it. Like, let's write at 510. Then a great agent calls and says, if we write 510,
this is my client. Today? This is my client's dream home. What do we need to do to make it happen? It's like,
or I mean, you don't necessarily got to play your cards that face up. You can. What I've seen buy agents do too is they know they've got a great offer. Talk to the agent. We're going to go in at 510. You think that'll get it done today? Well, I don't know. I got to talk to my seller. Right? Okay, cool. Send the offer with an expiration on it. Like, since that agent didn't want to give the info, like whether that's going to get it done or not. Okay, well, by tomorrow at noon, it's this house, another house. We're really interested in two, right? Both sides can play that game. Sometimes, Sean, I just wish I was an agent. I'd be out there just negotiating, just doing all this stuff.
I would be your loan officer.
All right. I'll send you some deals when I transition over to agent.
Well, Matt, I think we've done right by our listeners and our watchers here. I think we've really helped them out. We've helped them understand the market. We've helped them understand how to get their dream house, get their offer accepted. What else could you ask for?
I don't know. They know where to find me. If you're looking to, get yourself pre-approved and buy something in this glorious country of ours, there's 48 states we're licensed in, and we're happy to help. Go to greatmortgagebroker.com.
Yeah.
And if you want at the Mortgage Guy on YouTube, there's a bunch of stuff that people could do to return the favor of all this great knowledge.
Yeah, do that. And 48 states. I mean, that's a lot. Who needs to live in Massachusetts or New York? Too many people live there already. You don't want to live there. Move to Sacramento.
If people reach out to me in those states too, I've got great referrals for them. So no matter where you're at, reach out and we'll refer you if it's one of those two states. And if it's one of the other 48, you're going to have the pleasure of working with a mortgage specialist. Wow.
What a legend. Matt, I hope you have a fantastic rest of your day. Send me that Piano Man video.
All right. I think we got one from yesterday. I'm going to send it to you.
All right. See you, buddy. Thanks, everybody. Thanks for tuning in. See you next week. We'll go over the jobs numbers that come out this week. Bye, everyone.